Hi, everybody. So we're doing a 1.2, uh, number 38, problem number 38. So first, let me do a couple things to this. So I'm going to turn this system of equations into a matrix. Obviously, we want to solve the system. We'll see if we get it. And again, there might be infinite solutions, no solution. One solution is all a world full of possibilities. Well, not a whole world full of possibilities, really just three possibilities. Um, and I'm gonna do something simple. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch. Oh, we're gonna switch row one and row three. I just want to. I want the. I want the one x. I want the one up on top. Um, and then I'm gonna switch row two with row three. Then I'm gonna switch row two with row three. And that's going to give me, and I'm just going to write the first column, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, and a bunch of other garbage. Okay, so I'm going to take it from this point, and I'm going to start. Now I'm going to write everything out. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to unshare computer screen, and then you're going to be able to see what's on the paper. All right, here we go. So So now I just did a little row switching. Now, did I have to do any of this? Well, the first one, I wanted to. What am I trying to say? As usual, I'm being very garbled. So what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is that, technically I didn't have to do any row switching. I did it just for convenience. I could have just divided the top row by one. I'm sorry, by two. I could have divided the top row by two. I could have said one half of row one is the new row one, and now I have a one x here. Then I could use the one x to knock out these guys down here. I could have done it that way. Uh, and the reason I didn't do it is just because I just don't like dealing with all these fractions. Because then you're gonna have one x, which is fine. You'll have a one w, which is fine. You have a -3, which is fine. All those things are fine. But what's annoying is that you're gonna have a, one half x and a minus one half z, and I just don't feel like dealing with fractions. So that's why since I had a one x right there, I just swapped it up on top. And then being, I guess, I don't know, obsessive compulsive, whatever it is that I am, I didn't like it. Instead of having one x, 3x, 2x, 5x, I just liked having one x, 2x, 3x, 5x. I liked having it in order. Do you have to do that? Absolutely not. Sometimes I do things just because I don't know. To me, it's just more aesthetic, and it doesn't make a difference. If it made a difference, obviously I can't just do something that's not legal just because of the aesthetics. I have to. But in this, like I say, in this case, it was not an issue. So let me go back to now. Let me go to my paper. So I'm going to take all these now. So I haven't changed any of the numbers in front of us. All I did was just switch things around, and but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bunch of operations now. Okay, so I'm going to do R. And I'm going to do them all at the same time. So now that I have my new matrix, I'm going to say -2 row one plus row two is going to become the new row two. -2 times row one plus row two is going to become the new row two. So now I'm going to turn that two into a zero. Now I want to turn that three into a zero. So I'm going to do -3 row one plus row three is going to become the new row three. And then I want to turn that five into a zero. So I'm going to do -5 row one plus row five becomes the new row five. So I'm gonna wind up with 1, 0, 0. So I'm gonna wind up. Let me just now write the matrix. I'm gonna have a one, and I'm gonna have a bunch of zeros. One, two, a whole bunch of zeros. And what I'm gonna now on top, my top row is gonna be what it always was: 1, 5, 2, 6, -3. 1, 5, 2, 6, -3. My next row is going to be, let's see, -9, -5, -10, 0, -9, -5, -10, 0. I'm just looking at the matrix. And then my next one, my row three is going to wind up being -11, -6, -17, and 10. negative 17 and 10. And my bottom row is going to be, let's see, negative 23. See how beautiful, see how nice and beautiful these numbers are? Negative 11. Let's see, negative 31. I just want to mention that 31 always reminds me of Baskin Robbins. And and of course the bottom of here is 18. Okay, now my next the next trick, not trick, but the next thing on the agenda, again, I want to create that sort of triangle of zeros on the lower. I want I'm doing this sort of a step-by-step procedure. Next thing I want to do is get a one right over there. I want that guy to become a one. And then once I have the one, I'm going to use that one to knock out, everything below it. And then when I'm after I've done that, there's I started by getting a one up on top, and I use that one to knock out everything that's below it. Now I want to get a one over here and use that one to knock out these guys. And I want to turn that into a one and use that to knock out. I'll get my little triangle, my little lower triangle of zeros. Okay, so now what I'm about to do is not strictly necessary that you do it this way. Like I say, technically, the next move would be to multiply the second row by negative 1 over 9. So I should say negative 1 over 9 times the second row will become my new second row, and then it turns that negative 9 into a 1, and pow. And that would be a perfectly legitimate thing to do. And in a way, it's may even be simpler than what I'm going to do. But like I say, I have my thing. I have a severe allergy to fractions. So I've noticed here. Let's see. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do something, and let's see, and then I'll explain why I did it. Okay, how about that? I'm going to do something, then I'll explain to you why I did it. I'm going to take row two. I'm going to multiply it by negative 5. Negative 5 times row 2 is going to become my new row 2. Well, let me rewrite the whole thing. So I have again 1, 5, 2, 6, negative 3. This top row is like not changing. In fact, this top row, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to go through a whole bunch of steps, but this top row is never going to change. Because it's fine the way it is. And now I'm going to have, let's see, when I multiply by negative 5, I'm going to have, let's say, 45, 25, and 50. Okay, I'm going to have, well, 0. So I have that. That's 45. That's 25. That's 30, right? It's 30. I'm sorry, that's 50, and that's still 0. And these bottom two rows were never affected, so I'm just going to copy them over. 0, negative 11, negative 6. Oh, I put an extra 0. Um, Sorry about that. Negative 11, negative 6. What do we have as negative 17 and 10, right? And down here, I'm going to have this 0, negative 23, negative 11, negative 31, and positive 18. All right, so this thing doesn't exist. All right, so that's what we got. So I've not created any new zeros yet. Why did I do this, you ask? The reason I did it is because now I see if I add 4 times row 3 onto row 2, that's going to turn that 45 into a 1. See, if I multiply the negative 11 by 4, I get negative 44. When I add that on to positive 45, I'm going to wind up getting 1. So that's what we're going to do again. Do you have to do it like this? No, but I just like avoiding fractions. If I would not, if I would do it which to me having all those fractions is just uglier and more what's the word, more unwieldy. But if you would do it with all the that way and get all the fractions, so you still get the same correct answer. You get the same correct answer. Meanwhile, what I'm going to do now is going to add 4 times row 3. 4 times row 3. I'm going to add that onto row 2. And that's going to become my new row 2. All right. So now let's go up here. So again, my top row never changes. 1, 5, 2, 6, -3. And now I have and I'm only changing row 2. So I'm gonna recopy. So I'm gonna put a 0 here. Well, that's zero. That's 0 staying 0. And what's happening to row 2? So I added so I'm adding -44. That turns that into a 1. That is interesting. I'm adding -24. It turns that also into a 1. I didn't really even ask for that, but it's a nice happy thing. Uh, and I'm adding 4 times 17. 4 times 17 is 68. So I'm adding -68 onto 50, so I get a -18. And here, I'm adding, excuse me, I'm adding 4 times +10 onto 0, so I get +40. And these bottom 2 rows, nothing changed, so it's just gonna all stay the same. So that's let's see, let me just copy. I'm just gonna copy -11, -23, -6, -11, uh -17, boys, -30. Let's just space this out a little more. 10 and 18. All right. So my next thing I want to do is I want to use this one here to turn these guys here into 0. So therefore, I'm going to add 11 times row 2 onto row 3. That's going to become my new row 3. And I'm going to add 23 times row 2 onto row 4. And that's going to become my new row 4. So let's do it. So again, I have 1, 5, 2, 6, -3. And now, because that's not changing. The only thing that's changing is the bottom 2. So the top 2, I'm just going to copy. 0, 1, 1, -18, and +40. And now, these zeros stay, and these are going to become 0. And let's do it. So let's just do it one row at a time. Um, so what I'm going to, excuse me. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to have to do, let's see, uh, 11 where are we here? 11 times 1 is 11 plus -6 is +5. Now I'm going to stop talking. I'm just going to write the numbers because sometimes when I talk, I just confuse myself more, or I make more mistakes. Anyway, let me just do it. I mean, I make more mistakes. I'm very bad at multitasking. Negative, uh, and this one would be, let me think. Da, 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 da. All right. And the bottom row, let's see, that is going to become, I'm adding 23 of these. So 23 onto 11, 23 minus 11 is 12. And I'm going to say negative. Let me think. I'm looking at this in my head now. Uh, okay. This looks good. Now, the next thing, my next trick, I want to turn that 5 into a 1. Now, here I am going to divide the third row by 5 because everything here is a multiple of 5. So I'm just going to do 1/5 times row 4 is going to become my new row 4. And again, like I say, if you don't want to do it this way, if you'd rather just multiply each row by the fraction and blah blah. You can. Again, I'm trying to avoid fractions. Uh, so what do we have here? So only row four is changing, which means the other rows just get copied over straight. The other rows just get copied over exactly straight. Um, so let's just do it. 1, 5, 2, 6, -3. And the only one that's changing, what's it? Oh, that should be row three. I just realized that should be row three. Sorry about that. So since row three is the only one that's changing, I can just copy these other rows. So 0, 1, 1, 0, 0. 5 divided by 5 is 5 divided by 5 is 1, even I knew that one. And 215 divided by 5 is -43. And 450 divided by 5, even I could do that. That's 90, positive 90. All right, so we're good. And now row four, I'm just going to copy again. 0, 0, 12, -445, and 938. All right. Now for my next trick, I'm gonna subtract -12. I'm gonna add -12 times row three. Because I'm going to use this one to turn that 12 into a 0. So I'm going to say -12 times row 3 is going to become my new row 3, which means that all the other rows I could just copy over. Just copy and show you. 1, 5, 2, 6, -3, and 0, 1, 1, -18. Um, Oh, I just wrote this wrong. Negative, sorry about that. -12 R3 plus, uh, plus R4 is going to become the new R4. Sorry about that. -12 times row 3 added to row 4 is going to become the new row 4. So sorry about that. Fix that right there. Okay, so which means I could just copy the first three rows. The only thing that's going to change is the bottom row. We'll deal with that when we get to. So that says there's a 0, 1, 1, -18, positive 40. That's going to be 0, 0. That's fine. 0, 0, 0. Let's call that. Let's see. -12 times 43, and it's a negative 71. And uh, uh, yeah, okay. Let me just look at. I just want to look at it a second, just make sure I got it all good. Um, it looks good. And this looks the bottom looks ugly, but 71 goes into 142. So I'm just gonna take 1/2 of row four and become my new row four. 1/2 row four is gonna become my new row four. And that gives me my final matrix, sort of, is 1, 5, 2, 6, -3, 1, 5, 2, 6, -3. And And again, I'm just copying now. 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, negative 1840, 0, 1, 1, negative 1840, and 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 43, and 90. And then my last one, my nice one, 1, negative 2. And that is a thing of beauty. Now we're almost done. I just want to remind you this represents this matrix represents the system of equations um, x plus excuse me one second here. This represents the equation x plus 5y plus 2z plus 6w equals negative 3. And this is y plus z minus 18w equals 40. And this is z minus 43w equals 90. And this is w equals negative 2. And this may look pretty horrific, but if you back substitute, obviously you get w equals negative 2. W equals negative 2. And now if I plug that in here, I get 1 minus 43 times negative 2. I'm sorry, not 1, but 1z. So z minus 43 times negative 2 equals 90. So that's z plus, what is that, 86 equals 90. So we get z equals 4. And then once I know these two guys, I go to this next equation, y plus z, which is 4, minus 18w minus 18 times negative 2 equals 40. So that means, let's see, y plus 4 plus 36 equals, oh, look at that, y equals 0. That's nice. And then blah, blah, blah. Then you get, I'm going to go to the top guy now. So um, x plus 0, so I'll leave that out, plus 2 times z, which is 4, plus 6 times w, which is negative 2, equals negative 3. And that's saying x plus 8 minus 12 equals negative 3, which is x minus 4 equals negative 3. So x equals positive 1. So my solution set, so this is nice. We have one unique solution, which is very lovely. Uh, so it's 1, comma, 0, comma, 4, comma, negative 2. And that is how we do that. Now I'm going to make I think I'm going to, I'm going to do? I'm going to stop it at this point. I'm going to come back. I'm going to make a second video, like a part B of this same problem, because I want to show you something you could do. There's something, a slight alternate that we could have done. So I'm going to end the video now, and I will see you very shortly.